What's up, everybody? I'm Tyler Wojciak from Locked On Irish, and if Notre Dame wants to show it's a true national championship contender, they have to dominate games like Saturday's matchup with Pitt. So we're going to find out where the Irish really stand among the top teams in college football.
I'm Alan Pinkett, two-time All-American. This week is a must-win, but will Pitt show up?
I'm Allison Hayes. I've been covering the Irish for more than 20 years, and could teams like Michigan and USC join Notre Dame as an independent?
Reggie Brooks here, 1993 All-American. And here's for hoping for rain for this game, because the rain has really worked out well for the Irish. So bring on the rain and bring on the victory for the Irish.
Play like a champion today. It's the Fighting Irish Squad Show. Everything Notre Dame Fighting Irish every week. Breaking down the biggest news and game-changing plays the way only Locked On Podcast Network can. Wake up the echoes. The Fighting Irish Squad Show starts now.
All right, well, welcome to the Irish Squad Show on the Locked On Network, now the #1 sports podcast network. Welcome. We're talking about Pitt, Notre Dame. It's number 9 Notre Dame taking on number 22 Pitt in Pittsburgh on Saturday. It is a noon game, possibility of some rain in there, and College Game Day is going to be there as well. There's a lot of excitement. This is a big weekend for college football as well. We'll talk about some of those other games that are going to be on the schedule this week. While you're watching today, please subscribe to the Irish Squad Show on YouTube, or you can follow us wherever you get your podcast. And today we're going to talk about the challenge that Pitt presents for the Irish. This is their only remaining ranked team on the schedule. Marcus Freeman says, do not call this a trap game. And the Panthers, is it a must win? Pat Narduzzi says maybe it's not. And we're going to also discuss Jeremiyah Love and CJ Carr and what the Irish need to do to get that win on the road, plus some breaking news from the CFP committee. And could USC and Michigan join Notre Dame as independents? And of course, a trip down memory lane with our two Irish legends. Notre Dame, 12. Marcus Freeman says, don't call it a trap game. Pat Narduzzi, he had some bulletin board material perhaps with the comment that they could get beat by more than 100 points, but it doesn't matter as long as they win their next 2 games. We'll get your thoughts on that, guys, especially Alan. And, of course, our breaking news today. The committee, the College Football Playoff Committee, has they had their president or their chair. He stepped down today and that was a shocking announcement. He was the athletic director at Baylor, and he is stepping down, and now they are going to need to replace him as chair. And so we're going to see how those chips fall. Of course, guys, Pete Bavacqua, the Notre Dame athletic director, he is on one of those committees, the management committee, alongside 10 FBS conference commissioners. He was also a big advocate for a 16-team playoff. And of course, former Notre Dame football player Rod West, he was a former committee member a couple years ago. How do you guys think this kind of shakes things up with the CFP? Just what are your thoughts on him stepping down and kind of the controversy surrounding it?
Well, he stepped down for personal reasons. There's been some reports about what the personal reason was, but I wouldn't dare mention it on here because it would be speculation. But a new replacement was named, the athletic director from Arkansas, which, kind of worries me because we beat that ass so bad. He may not want to show Notre Dame any favor. You got to remember, we beat them so bad we got the coach fired. But so far, I have liked what this committee has done. It appears to me that they do watch the games. They have all these metrics they can use, but I don't need to see that I don't need a metric to tell me that Alabama is better than Oklahoma. And I don't need a metric to know that if Notre Dame played Miami right now, we'd roll their ass. But you don't want any drama with the committee. And I don't know if this is much of a shakeup. I think you just need someone to come in to be a spokesman, because I think the committee so far is doing a pretty good job.
I think it's plug and play, and you hope that the situation or issue, being personal, that family is okay, and definitely praying for him that things go well. But this is a part of life. I don't think this is something that really will adversely impact the committee. As Allen said, again, that this committee seems to be watching the games and locked in from that perspective. So I'm more concerned about how the outside world reacts to this, because it's a media cycle that it'll run its course and move on. I just hope we can stay focused on what's important, and what's important is to continue to play games and continue to work through it. Because again, this week is going to be a lot of tough games will be played this week, and hopefully that the committee's watching, and hopefully the Irish can be one of those teams that come out on top. But there's some pretty big games that will impact where teams stand at this moment. So I'm not overly concerned with in terms of how this would impact the committee. I just don't think that it's one person, and so I don't think it's going to have that. And I think Allen just said it. They've already found a replacement, and it's business as usual. Move on, and wish the individual well, and try to keep this thing going, and keep it. It's a lot to do about nothing. I just don't see it being an issue. So let's just play ball and keep it rolling.
Yeah, once those reports started to surface about a potential altercation, I guess you could call it, between Rhoades and a player on Baylor that happened during the sideline. The fact that there's no video or photos that have been released yet is pretty surprising when you consider the amount of cameras that are at every single football game nowadays. But as soon as those reports started to come out, I was like, there's just no way they're going to continue to put him on ESPN every single week as the guy who has to explain all of the committee's decisions if there's just this black cloud hanging over everyone's head. I'm kind of surprised that they didn't make the move faster. I guess he made the move to step down. But look, Mack Rhoades had the unfortunate job of being the person who had to go out there and answer all of the questions that the committee made behind closed doors. And I don't think that one person leaving changes anything, because it's not like he was the one who was coming in and had ultimate authority. No, he just basically had to regurgitate what they had just discussed in the conference room for however many hours prior. So I think Reggie's right here. This is much to do about nothing. It's more just an ugly look for the College Football Playoff Committee and everything that they've got going on. And I'm sure that once that news started to break, everyone in that room was probably hoping and praying that they did not have to be the spokesperson, so that they didn't have to go on ESPN every week and deal with all the ridicule that comes with that position.
Yeah, good point. Also, just to know, the committee was already one member short because another guy, Randall McDaniel, he stepped down last month also for personal reasons. So they just have got a lot going on there with the CFP. And like you guys said, hopefully they can just keep it together and get their work done and make the right decisions moving forward. And speaking of that, on Tuesday, the second official CFP poll was released. Of course, Notre Dame came in at number 9. They moved up a spot. And so just what are your thoughts there? And I know people have been talking about it now all week, but again, we've not had a chance to talk about it together. But just, Allen, you've kept saying, well, these first ones, they don't really matter. It doesn't matter. But it does matter in the sense that you got to start somewhere. And these guys like a Vanderbilt, who was just on the outside looking in, even if they continue to win, they could be odd man out, So I just wondered what your thoughts there on Notre Dame being ahead of teams like Texas and Vanderbilt and Miami. And, that is a team that they lost head to head to. Do you think that matters in the grand scheme of things? Alan, you've already kind of touched on it, that you don't.
Well, I think there's quite a bit of recency bias that they apply. And I think that we can all see when teams are descending and some teams are ascending. And Notre Dame is clearly on the rise. I was surprised to see them at 10 in the first week because the game they had against Boston College wasn't really a good showing. But, it probably was one of those, even though they played bad, they still beat them by, so many points. But wasn't as surprised when they moved up to number 9. I think that was just part of a reshuffle because of the Texas Tech BYU game. But I still think there's a lot more movement to go. What I'm kind of interested in is for Notre Dame, is there a path to get to number 8? Because if you get to number 8, then you're talking about a home playoff game. And I think that would mean so much towards Notre Dame's success in the playoffs. And I don't want to get ahead of myself because they still have to win all their games before we can realize all this. But overall, again, I'm pretty pleased with how the committee is doing the rankings. It sort of makes sense, for as much whining and complaining people have done. There was some movement, like Miami moved up 3 spots. It's just, if you win, you gain favor. If you lose, you don't. And I think that's what the committee is showing.
Well, I think, again, this is something that, I would agree with Allen. I was the number 10 ranking in that first week was like, oh, okay. Because it just immediately, you think about Texas and Oklahoma being in the SEC, and again, you can say it's not there, whatever, but there's SEC bias. But at the same time, the SEC is still the best, top to bottom, the best conference in college football. So I was a little shocked by Notre Dame being ranked ahead of both Oklahoma and Texas. I do see a path to get to number 8 because what in the heck happened to the ACC? Oh my gosh, the wheels have just fallen off there, and it's just, I'm blown away. Because you coming into this season, you could not have told me that the Big 12 was going to be better than the ACC. I did not see that coming. And be honest with you, did not see Texas Tech being the team out of the Big 12. So again, a lot of surprises coming into this season. So I like where the Irish are right now, and I think again, their focus needs to be on winning every game. And and Tyler touched on it. We need to win by more than 2 touchdowns. I think just from with this being the last ranked team that we'll see, I think it will go a long way towards promoting, because Pitt is still in the running, which blows me away to win the ACC, and I think that's probably why some of the snarky comments by Narduzzi was, we're here to win a conference championship first, and then if we win that, we're in maybe. But I've seen some scenarios where the ACC could be the team, the conference championship may not make it, which is insane. You look at that and you watch, and JMU, they're having a great season. So the ACC, they got some problems. Not that Notre Dame, we can't afford a loss, but man, think about that. We're talking about the ACC not making, the playoffs. There's an outside chance that could happen with some carnage, and you've seen again, they're beating each other up. Duke, they're still playing well, and they could be a spoiler, and Clemson is out of it, but again, they can be a spoiler. So, the ACC has some image problems, but I love how, that's college football now, and that's the beauty of it. Like I said, it used to be any given Sunday. Right now, it's any given Saturday. The carnage is real, and I've really enjoyed this season, not just as a fan of the Irish, but as a college football fan, to see so many different scenarios, so many different teams. Because again, it's not the blue bloods that are just running away with it anymore. There's still a battle. You see these smaller teams, Vanderbilt coming out of nowhere, playing well. That's what college football is supposed to be about. And I love the competition, and it's going to be a sprint to the finish.
You asked what happened. I would say reality. None of these teams are good. They're all just above average, I would say. I should say that they're not good. There are a bunch of good teams. They're certainly not a great team in this conference. But something I've been thinking about lately, like Notre Dame is obviously in great position to make the playoff if they're able to win out, which is an if, right? Because they have a big game coming up on Saturday against Pitt. And I'll ask a question to all of you. And Allison, you can start because I'm really curious. Would Notre Dame be better off if they finish 8th or in the seeds, and then they get to host a playoff game in the first round, which is great. And then if you win that game, then you get to play the winner of Ohio State, Indiana, which I assume will be Ohio State, who is going to be the 1 seed if they end up winning that game. So you get a home playoff game in the first round, but then you're probably getting Ohio State. Or if you are the 10 seed, you have to play a road playoff game in the first round against the 7 seed. But if you win that, then you get to play the 2 seed on the other side of the bracket. So, it'd be great to have a home game, but if Ohio State is on the other side of that, I don't know if I'd be too thrilled about it.
Yeah, and rankings-wise, Ole Miss is at number 7. So that would be the possibility is playing at Ole Miss or hosting a different team. Pick your poison. Do I love the idea of playing Ohio State again?
No.
Absolutely not. Ever.
I'll answer that.
But exactly. But that is part of college football, and you want to play the best, and to be the best, you have to beat the best. And so the opportunity to have a rematch from last year's national championship game, I would take that. I would love to see it in the actual championship game again instead of in one of the earlier rounds. But I love the idea of playing a game at Oregon. I think Notre Dame could beat them. I think it would be a great fan experience as well. I know that doesn't matter when it comes down to winning the game, but I think that would be a good quality matchup for the Irish. I think that they could win. I think they could beat Ole Miss as well. So I think either one of those would work out well for them in that first round, but you always want to be able to host.
I don't care where we play. I don't care who we play, because we have a game that will travel, and we've got a team that has lots of momentum on their side, and half the stadium is going to be ours wherever we go anyway. And me personally, I prefer going on the road because I love the feeling of going in somebody's house and taking it over. The more booze, the better, because I'm just going to be the type of person that's going to come in your house and get up on your couch with my shoes on, with mud on the bottom of them, and tell you, bring me the damn potato chips so I can sit here and watch this game. So I don't care. As long as we get in, that's really, how you need to think. Once you get in, then you make something happen. That's what Ohio State did.
Well, I again, if this defense continues on the track that it's on, I'm not opposed to playing Ohio State. From that standpoint, because again, the biggest, when we played them in the national championship, I was at that game. We didn't have the front seven. Our front seven was pretty banged up. And again, if we can continue to maintain our health and continue to get guys back throughout the rest of this season, not saying that we're going to necessarily beat Ohio State, but I think we can beat them because of and it'll be on a neutral field, And again, we travel well, so does Ohio State. But I like where this team is headed from a trajectory standpoint. And our offense, our offense, if we can get some of our offensive linemen back, hey, we can play a little bully ball. I mean, and I watched that Ohio State game, and had we been able to stop that last touchdown before halftime, I think that would have been a bit different ball game in the second half. Them scoring that last touchdown really, made a difference. And I do like the fact that the quarterback that we have now much better in the passing game, and I think we would challenge them there. So, I mean, would love a home game, just because again, Notre Dame Stadium and some. But if we have a home game, I want to play a Ole Miss, because get one of them Southern teams, they don't do well in the cold. But I think again, I think the mindset of where this team is right now and where they're projecting, I wouldn't be opposed to seeing an Ohio State in a second round, especially with them getting a bye. I think that could play in our favor, because again, I just remember last year all the teams that got a bye lost, and it's something to be said about coming off of a bye week. You're not quite as sharp, especially going into a playoff situation. You want to be, playing and hitting on all cylinders. And I think that just would potentially play in our favor to a point. Not saying again that, well, we're going to go in and dominate Ohio State. I'm not crazy. But I do feel that this team has the pieces and the structure to be in the mix. To be in the mix.
Yeah, I think I'd prefer they are the 10 seed and then travel to either Oregon or Ole Miss. One, because I think they match up well with either team, and selfishly, I've always wanted to go to a game in Autzen Stadium. Like, I've been to Eugene. I've been around that campus during the summer. It's a really cool place. I think that would just be an unbelievable environment. And I think Notre Dame has only played Oregon once. Allen, did you play against Oregon?
Yeah, we had a 10-10 tie. I scored a touchdown, though.
You needed to score another one. But I would love to go to a game at Oregon. I think that'd be sweet. And I'd love to go a game at the Grove in Ole Miss. So if Notre Dame does that, and then they get probably like maybe a rematch of Texas A&M or Alabama in the second round, that would be a lot of fun. But we are getting a little bit ahead of ourselves, because there is a game on Saturday that is pretty important for all of this to happen.
Texas A&M is not a game I want to rematch for. I do think Notre Dame has an excellent chance of matching up against Ohio State. I think Texas A&M is potentially the best team in college football right now. If not, I mean, they're right there. That one, and I know I'm going to get hate for saying that, but that is a rematch. I do not want to see Notre Dame play again. I think Marcel Reed is having a Heisman-worthy season, and they're better today than they were. I know Notre Dame is better today as well, but I think Texas A&M, that would be very tough. A couple games to be keeping your eyes on this weekend. Texas and Georgia. Number 10 Texas taking on number 5 Georgia. That is huge. Texas complaining, should they be higher? Where should they be? It all comes down to this game for them. And then also, who else we got on this schedule? Let me see here. Oh, yeah, Oklahoma, Alabama, number 11, Oklahoma, taking on number 4, Alabama. So huge implications there. Everybody keep their eyes on that moving forward. We probably should take our first break here really quick. When we come back, we're going to talk about, everyone always complains about Notre Dame being independent, unless you're an Irish fan, of course. But are teams like Michigan and USC possibly looking at becoming independents as well? We're going to get into that plus more when we come right back.
Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there is no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride the hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making that late push. And right now, FanDuel is giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet wins. So head to FanDuel.com to sign up and play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA.
fans, we're sick and tired of hearing about Notre Dame and being an independent and they need to join a conference. That's all been said. It's old. We're tired of it. But how about the possibility of some other teams going independent? Guys like Michigan, USC. I think those are legit teams that could potentially handle being an independent, whether they would stay that way with the realignments and the possibilities there. Let's talk a little bit about the whole private investment aspect in college athletics. This is something the Big Ten is pushing for. In fact, they're proposing a vote on this as soon as November 21st. And a lot of the teams reportedly within the Big Ten are all for it, and it's all about revenue sharing. But according to Yahoo Sports, I'm going to read this. Michigan is opposed to the arrangement because the administration views it as an unnecessary payday loan that bails out other teams who've done a poor job managing their finances. And USC is opposed because as a new member, they would get significantly less money than some of the big legacy programs like Ohio State and Penn State. I mean, a lot less, like $40 to $50 million less. So I would love to get your thoughts on this, because what this whole private equity investment thing is looking at a payout over about 20 years that is $2.4 billion. The California Pension Fund. Tyler, I have a feeling you probably might have a little background information on that, being that you live out there in LA. Should private investment be allowed in college athletics? How do you see this shaking itself out?
Ooh, should it is a different question than would it benefit the sport, I guess. Because, look, I think in the situation with the Big Ten, and the reason that USC and Michigan are against it is because they look at it as a short-term solution for a long-term problem. Because it's not just the Big Ten. Every single college athletics department in the entire country is trying to keep up with the rising costs. And it's not just football. Like, people think that once NIL came around, yes, now all of a sudden you do have to pay for a roster for all of your sports every single year. That's true. But it's everything else. It's the facilities and like the great war that's going on there, where if you build a new football facility 5 years from now, it might be considered outdated. So as the cost of everything goes up and up and up, these schools are trying to figure out an answer for it. And obviously in the short term, if you get all this cash infused to all these different athletic departments across college football, it's going to help in the next 2, 3, 4 years. But as Michigan and USC have pointed out, that's not going to fix the problems. It's going to help alleviate it. And to your point earlier about the schools who are a little bit newer to the Big Ten, like, it's going to help them out especially. But as much as we might hate to admit it here on a Notre Dame podcast, like, Michigan could survive as an independent. They don't need the Big Ten like, say, a Rutgers or a Maryland. I think USC is in a slightly different spot. I don't think they are quite as strong as an independent. Like, I mean, hey, they just left the Pac-12 to go to the Big Ten. But Michigan has a lot of leverage in this situation. And given their recent history with the Big Ten Conference, they're not just going to bend the knee willingly. So there are some real power players at play. And I feel like if you're the Big Ten, you need Michigan and maybe even USC a lot more than they need you right now. And it's just a very interesting situation that I think is going to create a large domino effect that could impact every other team in college football.
Well, I'm not familiar with the private investment side of it, but I'm glad, Tyler, that you were on top of it, because it just sounds like all the conferences are interested in is more money, not more competition. And I thought that, bringing all these schools together was to create more competition. The other thing I would say is, when I was in high school, I didn't even know where Notre Dame was until I went and took a visit. And part of that, the reason I say that is because it is a national brand. There's, I'm sure, plenty of people that don't know that Notre Dame is in Indiana. Well, how can you be a national brand if your name is Michigan? How can the Ohio club of USC be even a viable thing? Notre Dame can pull it off because it's a national brand, has always been a national brand. In fact, the way I describe the head coaching job at Notre Dame is, USC could care less what Florida does, and Texas could care less what Penn State does. But if Notre Dame loses, people from Pennsylvania, Texas, Florida, and California are all calling in saying fire his ass. So, but when you win, you are the king. And, you know, Notre Dame is really the only school that can pull this off because of the tradition, because of the way we do it. So I don't know. Teams could try to explore that independent route, but we do have some issues sometimes when it comes to getting teams on our schedule, especially in November, because other teams are in their conference. But I will, for later in the show, save some of the other things about why being independent is good.
Well, when you the thing about it is, it's not just, everybody focuses on football, but these schools have multiple sports that they have to fund, and there's only a small, number of revenue generating sports. Some schools have one revenue generating sport, and that's usually football. Some have football and basketball. So, and now that you're paying athletes, well, who is paying for those sports? Football, the money from football and basketball covered having been a sport administrator for track and field cross country, I was very aware that football funded, our team, our travel, our salaries. And, that's the aspect of college athletics that gets forgotten about. Everybody focuses on the money, but those dollars that these, universities are cash strapped for were because they're having to pay for these other sports, and they were using the dollars, the revenue generated by their football programs and their basketball programs to cover, as Tyler said, the facilities. But the facility war that started because they were, they had to spend the money, so they were spending the money, and they, for all this time, they weren't having to share the revenue. So, these are dollars that, the school were bringing in, these athletic departments are bringing in. They had to spend the money somewhere. So they weren't paying athletes. Now they were paying those coaches pretty good, but that only came into being over the last, 15, 20 years. But where was those dollars were coming in? Where was that money going? They had to spend it somewhere. So, hey, we'll spend it on this and spend it. And now with this revenue sharing process, things are starting to, they're like, oh, well, we don't have this extra $50 million that we can distribute here and there. And so now they're taking the next, dollar that comes and says, okay, hey, private equity, we'll give you this, which, think about that, 2.4, you said 2.4 billion, correct?
With a B, yep.
Well, think about this, though. How many schools are in the Big Ten? 18? And they're talking about 20 year, locking them up for 20 years? Does anybody remember what was Texas's valuation? It was a few months back, really early before the city. I think their valuation was like $2 billion. So why would, if I'm Michigan, hell, if I'm Ohio State, if I'm Penn State, why am I going to, lessen my value to stay in the Big Ten when, hey, why don't the schools start talking? Let's get together and say, well, hey, Michigan, Ohio State, Penn State, Nebraska, USC, these brand schools, the Alabamas, the Georgias, start this super conference that everybody's been talking about. I guarantee you they'll be making more than $2.4 billion will come from that deal. You got schools that actually could, broker their own deals and come out with a better deal than that. So, but the thing about it is, yeah, if this is what it's about, if it's only about money, okay. But if it's about educating young men and women, don't take that money.
Yeah.
Don't take that money because that is not going to benefit. It's a short-term fix for, like I said, a long-term problem. But the problem is not just paying the current basketball and football players. The problem is we're really prostituting college athletics on a whole nother level when you do that. You know, college, again, I'm old, 54. And I don't want to see these young men and women, having to make grown person decisions when they're 18, 19 years old. I'm not against them getting paid. Don't get me wrong. That's not what I'm saying. But don't start pursuing these additional dollars expecting to affect, because you don't want to cover the cost of what you've been doing, what you've been getting for decades. Whether it's the NCAA, whether it's these individual schools, because what makes up the NCAA? The member institutions. So think about who's going to get impacted the most and impacted negatively. Because when you start to incorporate money into making a child, basically they're employees. You're gonna have to get to that point. If you're gonna start bringing in these type of dollars, then you're saying these kids are employees. Don't do that. Don't do that.
Well, Reggie,
reassess.
The only problem. The only problem with that statement is it makes too much sense. But as far as how these schools allocate the money, I remember when I was at school, we might go one state over. We're getting on a plane. We put 90 people on a plane, or maybe it's 65, but it was still 90 people when you add up everybody. But I ran track in college also. We had a meet in New Jersey. We took the bus.
You bussing it.
And it took 2 days to get there. And instead of staying in the finest hotels, we were Howard Johnson's bound. Daggone it.
That gave me I ran track, and that gave me a different perspective of what other students, because these kids, they're competing and busting their butt just like we were.
Yeah.
I remember, like I said, when we had the indoor facility, we were kicking the soccer team out, kicking lacrosse out. They in season. This is the spring. We coming there, y'all got to go. And it's cold in February.
Yeah.
It's snow on the ground. I felt bad because it's like, damn, man, they in season.
Did Lou feel bad?
I felt bad. No, I'm serious. Because
I believe you felt bad. Did Lou feel bad?
Oh, hell no. It's too cold out here, so we're going in here. But the thing about it is, like, he had a point, because who paid for that indoor facility?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who paid? Like, you look at Notre Dame now and look at all the facilities. Like, every sport has their own facility.
Yep.
You can, and not just sports. Notre Dame athletics covered the cost of a ton of scholarships for the student body. And that's why I said, I always tell kids, I said, hey, when I was working there, I was like, hey, you keep your head up, because you help pay for a lot of these scholarships that these kids were able to get. You're doing more for the university than a lot of people, even some of the donors. So, you keep your head up and don't look at, because again, you always felt like, hey, well, I'm a student, but hey, you're an athlete, and they look at you a certain type of way. And it's like, when you as a student athlete, when you leave class, when you get at like 2:00, get your classes done, it's time for you to go to work. They go take a nap. And then you had to come back and you had to do the work. Again, I'm not talking about any other school but Notre Dame, because I only know my experience, and you had to go to class. They literally had people checking classes.
Yep.
Athletes. So it wasn't you can go over here and take a class and online, and no, your butts better be in that seat, ready to go. And I just think it's just where college athletics is now. I'm for paying the student athletes, but I think there's a better way to do it, to where it disseminates and it doesn't put a lot of sports in jeopardy of being cut. And that's the thing that bothers me the most is that, everybody focuses in on football, and rightfully so, because it's the revenue generator, and basketball because of March Madness. But there are other sports that these young men and women are busting their butt to do every day, getting up early, like swimmers. I never want.
Hell no,
man. I thought we were up early in the spring. Man, they're in the pool at 5:00.
Yeah.
That's insane. So sorry for getting on my soapbox there, but I just think there's a better way to do this. And when you start incorporating private equity, they have they're going to be a lot of demands.
Yeah.
And they're going to have a lot of expectations for some ROI. And if they're not getting it, it's going to be a problem.
Yes.
Well, we've already seen that with boosters that are contributing to the NIL and helping pay to get players to come to different schools. Those guys are contributing millions of dollars, and they have expectations of what they want to have happen, and they're expecting to have a say in that. So I don't think that private equity should be involved. I think we've completely lost sight of what amateur athletics is about. I absolutely love college football.
There's no such thing as amateur athletics anymore.
No, it's gone.
It doesn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
But you can have college athletics where these young men and women learn the important, because that's the other piece to it. Are we educating these young men and women on what these dollars that they're getting, the tax implications, the life-changing impact that these dollars will have on not only them, but their families. And, that's another thing. You got these families that are prostituting their own children to get a buck. I mean, they're literally shopping them around. And it's like, it's a game. This is sport. Sport is not like live or die. I guess we're going back to the Middle Ages when sport was the lance and you get run through. Maybe that's we're getting back there again. But it just hurts my heart that something that can be maintained for the immaturity of these young men and women to not have to grow up so fast. I mean, they have NIL in high school. Are you kidding me? Come on. That's ridiculous.
It is a slippery slope for sure. Let's start talking a little bit about this matchup finally. Notre Dame taking on Pitt. There's a game this weekend that we probably should talk about. Of course, so I teased about it that Marcus Freeman said this is not a trap game. I don't think this is a trap game. I mean, this is a ranked team. Pitt comes in ranked number 22. Pitt's defense is ranked third in the nation in rush defense, allowing 80.9 yards per game. That's it. And just 2.39 yards per carry. But, gentlemen, have the Panthers really seen the likes of Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price this season? No, they absolutely have not. So I'm just curious, thoughts on this matchup in this particular aspect of the game. Obviously, the run game is Notre Dame's bread and butter. Love has 458 yards and 8.5 yards per carry in his last 3 games. 8.5. Reggie, I know you like that.
Well, and this is I was looking at, just kind of like, Pitt's giving up 21 points a game, and I'm kind of back on our defense in a sense. We can talk about Notre Dame's, offense versus Pitt's defense. I get it, but what is the last 3 or 4 weeks? Where have we won these games? Defense is still, whether you want to admit it or not, defense still win championships. And with a healthy defense that can stop the run and be effective against the pass, our offense is going to put points on the board. Don't get me wrong. They're going to play hard, but I just don't see them being able to stand up over 4 quarters. And I'm still waiting for us to get a fast start offensively. And it's just bugging the crap out of me that we still have the same issues, kicking game and the short yardage and third and fourth down. This is just, why can't we fix that? And you talk about Pitt's defense being, against the run. Well, I don't care if they get the run. Let us dictate. You have an offensive line that can move people. I think, again, if you stack them up, let them stack up in the box. Tell that offensive line, I want them moved a yard to a yard and a half to 2 yards every play. Put that. I'm challenging those guys right now. Move that off the defensive line, which I think this offensive line is capable of doing. You got some massive guys that can move people around. That dictates what you can do, not only in the run game, but in the passing game. Because when you start hitting them and then boom, you play action pass, I'm back on it. Eli Reardon, I want to see my man in the end zone. I need to see number 9 catch a touchdown pass. Hell, just have him do a jet sweep and hand it off when he's like coming across. Get my man in the end zone. Get number 9 in the end zone. The kid is playing at a high level. I just think our offense is clicking right. It's starting to click, but we're still not there. We're just a couple of plays away. And I think, again, just from a rhythm standpoint, if we can get off to a fast start, it puts Pitt defense on its heels, and I think we just light them up. But I really think we need to get a fast start, and it starts with how we effectively control the line of scrimmage.
Well, look, Pitt has some positive momentum. They've won 5 games in a row, and the main reason they've won those games is because they changed their quarterback, true freshman. I'm going to mispronounce his name, Mason Heinschel.
Yep, you nailed it.
And he's played well. Now, you could look at their level of competition. They've beaten Syracuse and they've beaten Stanford, which are, still teams that Notre Dame has to play. But they've got some positive momentum, but Notre Dame's won 7 in a row. I guess what it comes down to, can Pitt's defense, with that high statistical ranking, number 3 rush defense, can they stop Notre Dame's offense, which is averaging 194 rush yards a game? I would go into the level of competition and level of execution thing, but Pitt's executed well, and you can only play who's on your schedule. But I just happen to think that Notre Dame just has better players, and I think it means a little bit more to Notre Dame right now to get back to the playoff. I think that Notre Dame should have its way. And then the last thing I'll lean on is Vegas seems to think that Notre Dame is going to be all right because the line keeps going up.
You love you some Vegas, man.
I watch the line. I don't gamble, but I watch the line.
Yeah, the way I look at this game, like we can get into the different matchups and everything. I think Pitt's front 7 going up against Notre Dame's offensive line and their running backs is obviously very interesting. But look, pretty much ever since Notre Dame lost to Ohio State in last year's national title game, we have been talking about this year's team in 2025 as a legitimate national championship contender. They have not proven that they are a title contender just yet. I mean, they had their moments against Texas A&M. I mean, that 1-point loss was extremely frustrating in the moment. It does look better now based on how Texas A&M has played. But they have not gone out there and dominated a good team at any point this season. They won against USC. They honestly didn't play anywhere close to their best. If you watch that game back, it's like, how did they not run away with this game? Because they were about to go up 21-10, and then CJ Carr threw the pick that I've already talked about too much on this show. But they didn't play their best, and they still won by double digits. Like, if you're going to be a championship team, you have to go out there and dominate good teams, potentially even great teams. Hell, Indiana puts up 50 points on whoever they play every single week until they played Penn State. So Notre Dame finally has to prove that they can do that. They have to go out there. If they win, everyone's going to be happy, right? Their playoff hopes are still going to be alive and all that. But if this team really wants to win a national championship, they got to start playing like it, and they got to go out and dominate Pitt. They got to win by 2 to 3 touchdowns, and if they win, we'll be satisfied. But if they really want to be that national title team that we thought they could be going into the season, they have to play like it, and Saturday is a great chance to prove it.
It's their last chance to prove it too. It's their only ranked team left on the schedule. And so I think they need to. We don't have enough time to really fully get into the whole Heisman conversation. I know we talk about Jeremiyah Love each week, but just wanted to throw this out to you. I think he still is looking for his Heisman moment. I felt like he might have had it last week, and then you look at the numbers, and right now he's at the bottom of the potential list here at plus 3,500. It's all quarterbacks. All the front runners. Fernando Mendoza from Indiana, he's plus 130, and he is the front runner. You got Julian Sayin from Ohio State at 170, Marcel Reed from Texas A&M at plus 700, then Ty Simpson at plus 800, and then Diego Pavia before you get to any other type of player at wide receiver for Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith. The only running back, Jeremiyah Love, on that list even. So I think I know it doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and Marcus Freeman touched on that this week, that his Heisman campaign they don't need to worry about that. They just need to keep winning. And Jeremiyah Love would be the first to say he probably doesn't care so much about winning a Heisman as much as he would love to win a national championship. And if they keep winning, he keeps putting himself in that position. Fair enough. All right, we do need to take a break. When we come back, we're going to breeze through the quarterback situation for Pitt and the change that they made, and we'll give our thoughts on how Notre Dame gets this win done, because I think we're all in agreement the Irish are going to get the win.
Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows and a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House's next-day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And the Part Finder tools and 3D schematics can save you hours on jobs where every detail matters. Their Trademaster perks like priority shipping and dedicated support make the whole process smoother. Join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service.
All right, well, let's talk about this true freshman quarterback for the Panthers. His name is Mason Heinchel. And what do you guys feel like is the biggest challenge, I guess, when you look at a quarterback like that? The Panthers are ranked 6th in scoring offense, 39.7, and Notre Dame is tied for 9th, by the way, at 38.7. 11th nationally in passing yards per game. Heinchel, he's led the offense now with 1,547 passing yards and 12 touchdowns through his first 6 games. What are your thoughts right now? Are you concerned at all with Notre Dame's secondary going up against this quarterback? Are you thinking he's ripe for the picking, literally interception-wise, going up against a true freshman quarterback? I mean, we're looking at C.J. Carr as a freshman, but he's technically not a true freshman. But we've seen some really great things out of C.J., and this guy seems to be on that same path in what he's doing for the Panthers offense right now.
Well, he's hot. He's fearless. I don't think he's played a defense like Notre Dame. So I think this will be a test for him. And if he can torch Notre Dame, then he deserves all the accolades that he would get. But I think about all the quarterbacks that Notre Dame has played this year, I don't think that he's the best one that they've seen. I mean, we got dudes that were throwing over 300 yards 5 games ago. So I don't think he is the best, but he's the hottest one right now.
I go to the Syracuse game where he really struggled. Under 60% completion, sacked 7 times.
Whew.
I think the pressure, when he's under pressure, I think that's where again the level of competition does have merit here. The last 3 games that he played, Syracuse, North Carolina State, and Stanford, his best game was he was at 60% completion. Other than that, I really feel that they're going to be able to get pressure on him, and in doing so, he'll make some mistakes. But again, he's a freshman, and he's actually grown and gotten better. But I think again with what we're doing defensively, our ability to we're getting to the quarterback now, so that's a difference maker. And I really feel that this defense is going to be, hitting on all cylinders, and getting some guys back too. I just don't see them being able to, stand up against this Irish defense for 4 quarters and not, I expect to see him on his back at least 2 or 3 times and getting sacked, if not more.
The thing about Heinzel is he's good. Like, he's going to make some throws in this game where you're like, damn, he just made a better play there. And they've got good wide receivers to throw to in Kenny Johnson and Raphael Williams Jr., but he does make some rookie mistakes. He likes to hold the ball a little bit too long and try to make some plays downfield when there's nothing really there. We saw CJ Carr do that at the beginning of the year, but he would just have an intentional grounding penalty. But Heinzel will take a sack when he probably shouldn't do it. He's averaging about 1 interception for every 30 pass attempts. So I think he's going to make some plays in this game, but Notre Dame's secondary has been very opportunistic. And I think you could make a legitimate argument that going into this game, this is the best and the healthiest that Notre Dame's secondary has been all year, because Leonard Moore is now a couple months removed from that ankle injury. Yeah, Christian Gray missed the last 2 games. I think that was purposeful. I think they sat him out to rest him so that he would be fully healthy in this game, because he's been dealing with a hip injury. He also had that shoulder injury that he suffered against Miami in the first game of the year. So their starting corner should be healthy. You got Devontae Smith back in the lineup, and I think that's very important going up against a team like Pitt, who has a really good slot receiver in Hicks. And then in the secondary, you've got Tay Johnson, who they didn't really play him at all at the beginning of the year. So that's an added bonus. And the safeties overall, like, they've just been playing a lot better. Schuler's playing really well. So yeah, Heintzel's going to make some plays, but I think over the course of 4 quarters and 60 minutes, Notre Dame's secondary is going to get the better of them on at least 2 plays, probably get some picks. And I'm going to just go ahead and tease my prediction later. I think we're going to see a defensive touchdown for Notre Dame in this game.
And I can see it actually being KVA. I mean, he is on a tear right now. And that linebacking core, they are coming with a lot of heat. And we said much better in the pass coverage with our linebackers this year than in previous years. So I like your prediction, Tyler, and I'm going to go out on a further limb and say it's going to be KVA with either a strip, a sack. They're going to get a sack, strip sack, and he's going to pick it up and run it back, or he's going to intercept it and run it back for a touchdown.
I was going to say that'd be the only thing more impressive than what he did last week against Navy, when he just literally took out 2 birds with 1 stone. Yeah. It's rare. It's pretty rare when a defender and a linebacker makes a hit that's so hard where I audibly go, "Oh my God!" Like I felt bad for the Navy players in that moment because it was such a violent collision. But he's a dude, and he is playing on a different level right now.
Well, and Heinzel, you talked about it. He's thrown 5 interceptions this season, but Reggie, you had me at 7 sacks. If Syracuse can put up 7 sacks on this team, Notre Dame should put up 14 sacks on them. I don't know if that's really going to happen, but I do expect them to be bringing the pressure, and I think they're going to have success doing it. And man, I hope you're right about a defensive touchdown. Let's talk a little bit about those predictions, or how you guys see this game playing itself out. We all agree Notre Dame is going to come away with a win. We think it could be a big win. Is there a key player maybe you want to talk about, or is there a way they're going to get it done?
I guess I'll go first. I don't like to predict, but I think it's a must that they win by 3 touchdowns. I think that they have to show the nation. There's a lot of doubters out there thinking that Notre Dame is getting in because of their name. But if you watch them play, there is no doubt that they belong in this playoff. So I think it's time for Notre Dame to make believers out of everybody. And let me just say, the Pitt game is near and dear to my heart because a long, long time ago, when I was just a freshman at Notre Dame, we played Pitt at Pitt, and Pitt was ranked number 1 in the country. Had Danny Marino at quarterback, and we went in and I guess we tied Oregon that year, and just barely beat Navy, lost to Arizona, and now we're going up against the number 1 team. But your boy was fortunate to score twice in that game. I guess it ended up being my little coming out party. I had a 76-yard run, and I also had another 8-yard run, and we upset the number 1 ranked Pitt Panthers that had 16 guys on that squad get drafted by the NFL. But the best thing was on Monday when I went to chemistry class, 2 guys in front of me stood up and gave me a standing ovation. It was Emel's class.
Oh,
yeah.
And
And
they get in trouble for that? Because Dr. Emel, he didn't play, man.
But everyone else stood up and gave me a standing ovation. And Emel decided to give us the day off from class. So that was the best thing about that particular weekend.
No, that didn't happen. There's no way that happened.
He gave us the day off.
No. If y'all knew this dude, this professor, man,
he was by the book most of the time.
Woo, and
I shared that article on my Facebook page today. If you guys want to check it out, and it's got pictures from the game, but it has a picture of Emil Hoffman, your professor, and it tells that story. So if you want to get a visual of what he looks like, you can find that article on my social media page.
Yeah, that little dude was vicious, man.
Yeah,
I did not like him at all. At all. He took no shorts. If you were late, he was on your head. If you did anything wrong, he was on your head.
Well, you didn't want to miss a test because the makeup was twice as hard.
Twice as hard.
Yeah.
Oh man. So it's like, hey, I got to get back so I can take Emel's test. So you can't miss his, and don't miss class because he knew every football player in his class, every athlete, without fail. If you were missing, when you got back and get over to practice, he didn't rat you out and you running, and then he's gonna give you some homework just to add injury to whatever that saying is,
insult to injury.
Yeah.
Oh man, that dude. Oh man, he was. I when I came back to work there, I went found him and gave him a big hug and thanked him because again he was one of the best professors I had. But I didn't know it at the time.
Yeah. Well, he is a major part of the Notre Dame experience.
Yes.
And that's an experience I shared by both the students and the players, or should I say, student athletes.
Well, I'm defense. I'm like I said because I've already exhausted the whole offensive issues. And it's not, and again, talking about it it doesn't seem to be working. So I'm going to focus on the defense and, like I said, defensive score. And I'm going to, like I said, we're going to get at least 3 turnovers and 1 turnover for a score because we need our offense. And maybe if I don't talk about them, they'll do better. But like I said, this defense is playing at a level right now that is a championship level. I mean, and I got to agree with Tyler. They're not there yet because we don't have – we need all 3 phases, offense, defense, special teams. And right now, we have defense and we have part of special teams because we have such a great return game. But the kicking game is, so literally the kicking game and our offense need to get better. But our defense is playing at a championship level, and so is our return game. So half of the special teams is doing well. The other half, I know Marcus is not going to do tryouts, but damn, man, something. Good Lord, that's just getting worse. So I think defensively, we're getting there, and offense can do whatever the hell they want, and they just need to fix it because they're really pissing me off. Because this is a damn good offense. They have a damn good quarterback. I mean, best backfield in the country. The offensive line is definitely doing better. And like I said, I think would love to see more than a two tight end set every now and then would be nice. We got some receivers out on the edge that are dynamic, but we just tend to struggle. And like I said, I don't know if it's a rhythm thing or play calling or what, but this offense has got to step up. If we're going to get where we said that this team can be, the offense has got to step up and play at a high level consistently, and we're just not there yet.
The bar is high for Reggie when Notre Dame is coming off a game when they had 9 real possessions and they scored touchdowns on 7 of them. And of the 2 that they didn't score a touchdown, they actually drove down the field and then they had to kneel it at the end of the game. So they could have gone 8 for 9 in this game, but I understand the point you're trying to make. They need to do it against a good defense. They're going up against a good defense this weekend. And to me, this is a CJ Carr game because Pitt's going to sell out to stop the run. If CJ Carr plays really well, Notre Dame is going to win. I have no doubt about that. If he goes out there, rain or sun, if Notre Dame has a miracle and plays a game in pretty decent weather conditions, then I think CJ Carr is going to go out there and light him up. It could be a repeat of that game in 2015 when Pat Narduzzi in Pitt notoriously would not shift the cornerback who I think at one point they had a safety going one-on-one with Will Fuller, and Mike Denbrock, who's the offensive coordinator at the time, was like, we're just going to keep throwing it to Will Fuller. He had like 8 catches for 150 yards and 3 touchdowns in this game. So I feel like Mike Denbrock's going to figure out which matchups he wants to exploit, and then it's on CJ Carr to execute, and I think he will.
I'm with you on CJ. I feel the exact same way. I think there's going to be a lot of pressure on Carr because we all know they're going to try to stop the run. And so can Carr adjust and can they make them pay for it in the passing game? And I think that they will. I think rain or shine. I think CJ's proven that, and I think he's going to get it done. Before we say goodbye tonight, and Alan, you already shared your experience, but we actually had one of our subscribers, his name's Dan Collins, and he wrote in and he had a question. He wanted to hear from Alan and Reggie of what your favorite memories are. And Alan, you had a pretty darn good one. And Reggie is not so shabby yourself, old thunder and lightning over there.
Part of the thing I remember is that Coach Holtz took our entire starting offense off the field because we weren't playing at a high enough level. And like the first series, you had Kevin McDougal was at quarterback, Ray Zeller's fullback, and Lee Beckton tailback, and they marched right down the field. And K-Mac throws a touchdown to Derek Mays, and that kind of woke up the starting offense. It's like, okay, yeah, I'm not trying to lose my job against Pitt.
Well, I know in 91 you had a blocked punt, right? And recovered it and returned it for a touchdown.
Yeah. That was the first time that because my brother, he actually scored a touchdown rushing, and I scored it on a block punt and recovered the ball in the end zone. And that was the first time I think 2 brothers scored in the same game. So that was a pretty good memory.
That is awesome. Well, thank you. Thanks for sharing that. I mean, you had a lot of, it seems like a lot of good performances. I read that Lou Holtz said that you and Irv Smith both played exceptionally smart football in that 91 game. So, and of course, you guys beat them in 91, you beat them in 92. Just so many great memories between Brooks and Bettis and Beckton and all the yards that you guys were able to accumulate. Hopefully, we're going to see Jeremiyah Love and Jadarian Price do the same thing against the Pitt Panthers. All right, guys, any parting shots, anything final you want to say before we say goodbye?
Well, I'm going to have to reiterate, get my man number 9 in the end zone.
We are all rooting for
Yes.
Raridan.
Yeah, whatever the prop bet is, we need to get to Eli Raridan in the end zone. If Pitt rushes 6, I think Eli Raridan will have his shot at getting the ball and getting it to the end zone.
I got to say one other thing. Ryan Coretta is Kevin Coretta's nephew. He's on Pitt, Smart kid. Just want to give him a shout out, even though we're going to beat your behind. Just want to give you a shout out before we beat you behind. Love you, young man. Hey, you family.
I guess my parting shot would be 42-21, Notre Dame.
Let's go. All right. Well, that's going to do it. It's a wrap for this episode. Thanks for watching and listening. And we know there's a lot of podcasts out there to choose from nowadays. So thank you so much for making the Locked On Irish Squad Show one of yours. Please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you're listening to the podcast. And if you enjoyed the show today, please give this video a like if you're watching us on YouTube, or rate the show 5 stars and leave a review if you're listening to the podcast. You know, I was never really paid much attention to that kind of stuff before doing this podcast with Locked On, but subscribing and liking makes a huge difference. So we really appreciate all the folks that have been doing that for us. Thank you for watching, and we'll have another one after Notre Dame beats Pitt by 3 touchdowns on Saturday. Thanks, guys. Go Irish.